So it's been a while since I made my first semi-automatic farming video, and it's a bit outdated now. There's been a lot of new things. For example, we can now mushroom farm, and I've already done a video on mushroom farming, and we didn't have the ability to properly harvest wheat because at the time we didn't get seeds whenever wheat was harvested by water. But now that we have some new changes recently, I've decided to revisit some of my semi-automatic farming stuff and add some new things. And so might as well start with what we have new here, which is mushrooms. And by the way, if the video gets a bit slow or it sounds a bit weird with my voice and whatnot, it's because I recently upgraded to Windows 7 and Minecraft runs pretty horribly compared to XP. So I'm probably going to have a lot of issues with that. And what this is basically just 3 channels which mushrooms have been growing on, and 2 channels which mushrooms have been growing on as well, but which doesn't actually get exposed to the water which is going to be used to harvest those mushrooms. Now, I did find out that mushrooms have half the chance to grow from a layer below or above onto a new layer. For example, if this mushroom were to grow directly to the right of itself, it would have a normal 1 out of 100 chance per tick or whatever to grow onto that block. However, whenever we're dealing with mushrooms that are above or below the layer they have a chance of growing on, they have half the chance that they normally would. And so to slightly counteract that, what we can do is make a channel above and below our layer that we want the mushrooms to grow on to protect them from the water that we're going to use to harvest these mushrooms, while not sacrificing quite as much potential. So on the right side I have reds, and on the left side I have brown. And so you can see that brown is growing on the right, red is growing on the, brown is growing on the left, red is growing on the right, and in the center we have brown and red. And then up top, we harvest them by simply releasing some water, which flows down 1 step, travels 8 blocks forward, including the step it lands on, and then stops right here where it will drop off the mushrooms here. And so, and by the way, this is an 8 long channel, and there's exactly enough room with an 8 long channel to have this set up. So you can have 2 here, your seed mushrooms, another 2 seed mushrooms, and then another 2. So it's pretty much the perfect amount for a single go, but you can expand this higher. For example, if you wanted to take this water and actually drop it instead of letting it flow, you can use blocks to direct the water flow, and you can get away with probably using a single block of water to break all the mushrooms you need on multiple levels, and then you just need to take this setup here and stack it up as much as you want, and then just drop it into the same channel. Or you can also expand to the right and left horizontally, or you can expand to the back and simply just drop down 1 level at each 7 blocks. So there's a lot of things you can do to sort of increase the amount of production you have. This is just the basic farm, and this should give, I don't know, somewhere between like 14 and 18 right now as it is. So down here the water just ends right at our doorway, and our switch is right outside the door, and the redstone's just coming up and across through this repeater here, and all it's doing with this repeater is just allowing it to repeat. It's doing, its default job. I wanted every piston to activate at the same time is all. So it's just going down a level at each piston there, and going across the back of our water here, down another level, and another and another. And you don't need to worry about it breaking mushrooms or your redstone, because water will just travel to the nearest drop, and that should be your channel where your mushrooms are growing on. And you are going to need some shade for your mushrooms to properly grow, but that shouldn't be too big of a problem. I just have it sort of a lip, one out and that should allow you to have mushroom growth everywhere. See, we have mushrooms in the back here. Didn't plant them, they just grew somewhat close to the light, but they can grow in any level that is 12 or under. I mean, I think it's under 12. Yeah, I think it's 12 or under, whatever. Anyway, when we flick our switch, then the water is just going to rush in, break the mushrooms, and bring it to us. So to demonstrate that, there it goes, breaking the mushrooms, and you will notice that sometimes maybe mushrooms can get stuck on this walkway that I built. And if that happens, you just don't build a walkway. I built that just for demonstration purposes. But sometimes, whenever our mushrooms get pushed to the end here, it might just fall on this right here. So you just don't want a walkway like I have it here, unless you feel like walking to collect them, which sort of kills the whole purpose of having an automatic system with the water. But you don't really need it. And that is about it for that particular bit there. And at the end of the next video, because I've broken this video in bits to make it easier on my computer and stuff, but at the end of that video, well, not really the end, but probably in the description for that video, I'll probably have a download link for this map as it currently is, so that if something is a bit if you don't really understand a part of it, you could just check it out yourself on the map, and you don't have to listen to me ramble on about any more details than is necessary. And I might as well just go through the sugarcane farm and a bit about cacti before ending this video, since it's going to be shorter, I think, than the next one. So for the sugarcane farm, it is the exact same setup almost as my farm in the previous video, semi-automatic farming, but instead it's using a different circuitry, and I don't know exactly why I used the circuitry of the previous video. Maybe either things were outdated, I was using the piston mod instead of the vanilla pistons, but I'm not sure if anything changed. But regardless, the circuitry here is a lot more simple. So basically, if we look in here, we can see that I have a bunch of sugarcane, and it is exactly, I believe, 15 spaces. We have 8 until it reaches the center, and then another 7 here. So the 8th one for each left and right meets up in the center. And if we go down below, we can see where the water meets right there. So you can see that if we place water in the corner there, and on the other two sides, they will meet up directly in the center here. And the water is actually just hidden underneath these blocks. See that? That's where the water is ending. If I remove this pressure pad and this block here, the water would just end right underneath this. However, I sort of just didn't want to deal with placing the water here and going over top of it with a slab or something. The piston setup is pretty simple. It's just the entire length in each direction this way and in the back, and then you skip the left and right sides for the end bits and only put one in the middle because the left and right pistons will handle those. And then you just have some dirt down for the sugarcane. I have a pressure pad here just to get out of the room easier, so you can just quickly walk through, and a button up top, and the button is just passing power to the right and left, so we get as much power without as much repeaters as we normally would. So the button's just transferring power to the left and right, and on the left I chose to put a repeater here. And so we only need one repeater for this whole thing, but you don't need that if you take the power from the button and go right across the top and down here. Then you won't need any repeaters at all. So if you don't want to cook up some smooth stone and stuff, you could just do that. But I find that this is really nice because this glass allows the sugarcane to get daylight whenever possible, and the more light sugarcane has, the faster it will grow. Otherwise, you might want to place some torches right above the sugarcane and ignore the glass, or bring the glass up one level. but you definitely want to give it daylight if possible. And then this button, when we press it, will activate the pistons because this redstone is on a block that is right behind our piston. So if we activate this redstone, all the pistons will activate temporarily, and since it's right against the door will open. I just placed it here for convenience, but if you don't want the door to open when you press the button, then all you have to do is just move the block elsewhere. You don't have to have it right above the door if you don't want it to. But then you also would have to move it a bit away because it'd be kind of tough to power the piston unless you put the button right on this line here. But that would also be possible. You just need the redstone to go across. But at any rate, for this version, you would just, if you don't have too much lag, press the button and step through, pick up your sugarcane, should have 54, and leave. You don't have to worry about sugarcane flying around as much as it used to in the mod, because sugarcane, like other entities and stuff, isn't being launched forward by pistons anymore, so that isn't a problem. And real quick, again, the cacti haven't changed any, the way you use them, so you could just, I haven't actually built the building on this map because it's really the same thing as in my previous video, but basically you could just keep all the pistons inactive whenever you don't need cacti. That way whenever you walk up, instead of waiting a really long time for your first batch of cacti that you need, you could just flip the switch and get double the usual output of your farm really quick, because it breaks off the top too. And of course it still has a chance to break on the cacti itself, like always. And then if you leave it like this, and the cacti grow, then it'll automatically break off as well. So you don't actually need to have it running constantly, which is great for multiplayer, and you can reduce lag, and you can only flick one switch, get your entire bit of cacti that you need, and then turn it immediately back off, so you're not causing lag at all. And I believe that should be a good place to stop for this video, and next will be wheat farming using pistons and such. See you next time.